What's going on, melon farmers? D-Mac here with a little bit more of a chilled out kind of series that we're going to be bringing to you on this YouTube channel for the next little while. We're still doing the Burton Lewis Be a Pro series. So this is my main save file when it comes to franchise mode. I've tried several other franchise modes in the past, but I always seem to come back to this one. It's my main one. It's the one that I enjoy playing the most. It's the one I always come back to. Anyway, like and subscribe if you haven't already. There's new videos coming every damn day. And in this one, it's an introduction to the Quebec City Stallions and a comprehensive history. First, we're going to just start at the top of the list with Thatcher Lewis. Thatcher Lewis is 23 years old currently, has 46 points in 27 games. And he really offensively is one of the juggernauts of this team. If you look at his attributes, his playmaking ability, his speed, his discipline, his durability is finally up to snuff, but it wasn't for the longest time. His defense is solid. He is an all-around dominating force on the ice for this team. He's a natural leader in the locker room. Really likes his team, likes management. His individual performance is constantly going up. The whole season, he has just gained morale. He's a really great guy in the locker room. We have him signed for this year and 4 more years at under $8 million a year. So I'm very happy with that. But it pays to do a little history lesson. So Thatcher Lewis was pretty much the Quebec City Stallions' best prospect 5 years ago. He was their best guy. He was maybe about a year out of the NHL. After a lot of injury problems and stuff on the team, we had to call Thatcher Lewis up. He was playing in our AHL affiliate team. So he was called up, made an immediate impact, and he was good enough that we decided, you know what, for a third line guy, fourth line guy, you know, playing a little lower down in our lineup, we want to keep this kid around. So he finishes the rookie season. He finishes his rookie season after also having an injury in there as well that sidelined him for about 10 games. He played 48 games and had 26 points. And everything in the Quebec City Stallions just pointed to this kid is going to be one of the future greats on this team. So second season, he is NHL ready. Physically, he's mature enough. His statistics, his attributes are growing very, very well. We bring him up. He gets injured for 20 games, but does play most of the season. But his stats significantly fall off the map, and he only has 15 goals and 32 points. So at that point, we're looking at Thatcher Lewis like, uh-oh, maybe this kid isn't going to be everything we thought he was going to be. But then next season, his attributes physically, he does continue to grow. He's put on that second line with, I believe it was Matt Siemens. So he has a great year. In our next season, last year, suddenly he's on the second line with Ryan Chisolm and the then rookie Patrick McDonald. And when him and Patrick McDonald hit the ice together, everything starts going in the net. And Thatcher Lewis starts seriously putting up goals at an alarming rate. 65 goals, which I believe is 2 goals away from tying the all-time team lead, 67, which is held by Ryan Chisolm, who is the long-standing captain of the Quebec City Stallions. Now this season, he is on another level. Still on that second line with Patrick McDonald and Ryan Chisolm. So he is on pace for an absurd amount of points, absurd amount of assists, goals, you name it, this kid is lighting it up. He's only 23 years old and he's just getting better. Then we move on to the number 1 center, Matthew Siemens. Matthew Siemens, another guy who's been around since the beginning and has never missed a game. Never in his career has he missed a game. And he has just gotten better. Every single season, he has leader written all over him. He's a big, heavy hitter, tough guy. 65 points in his rookie season. Moves on to the next year, 76 points. Next year, 80 points. And last year, winning the President's Trophy, a career high 91 points. But this season, He is really starting to fall off the map. He's dropping down, physically having a really hard time producing points, but hopefully he can bounce back. He's only 24 years old, and look at this. Less than $6 million a season for 3 more years after this one. He'll want a huge raise after that. Ryan Chisolm, the absolute bona fide, no doubt in anyone's mind, leader of this team and most offensively dominating player in the last 5 years. He is still near the top when it comes to the Quebec City Stallions, but he was the first rookie since Sidney Crosby in 2005, 2006 to hit 100 points in his rookie season. First player in his rookie year since Crosby or Ovechkin, I believe. It was the same year, I'm pretty sure, yeah. To hit 100 points in their rookie season. And he has never not hit it since then, including last year when Patrick McDonald came into the league and absolutely lit it up with Thatcher Lewis and Ryan Chisolm on that number 2 line, which they are still on to this day, and they're just not slowing down. He has an absurd 532 career points in just over 350 games. He is by a mile one of the best hockey players in the universe, in history, especially in today's game. He is putting up absurd numbers. He's playing almost 19 minutes a night. If you look, he's 6'7", 240 pounds. He's a big center, amazing face-off guy, great defensively, and physically just a punishing juggernaut on the ice. The only problem is his birthday is late December. He is about to turn 29 years old, and he is signed to a very, very large contract. He is not the most high-paid player in the National Hockey League, but this contract is not going to be worth it. I would say 5 years from now, that contract is not worth it anymore. Maybe even sooner if the speed starts to drop for Ryan Chisolm. This contract's not worth it. Erik Brannstrom is another very important piece in the building of the Quebec City Stallions, even though he does not play for the Stallions anymore. He does play for the Chicago Blackhawks now. He was traded there at the beginning of this season before a game had been played. Erik Brannstrom signed a max deal with the Quebec City Stallions, I believe in 2021 and 2022. I think that was the season. He signed an 8-year, I believe it was an 8-year deal worth, $5.4 million a season. At that point, he was a top 4 guy, producing very well. Another one who was just getting better every single year. And last year was absurdly good offensively. 58 points on the blue line as a top 4 guy. The problem was we already had Thomas Chabot, who was a proven leader on this team, proved he could put up big numbers, was very, very responsible defensively, just a great guy. And they were both about to be around top 2 defense caliber. So one of them was going to have to go. And although Erik Brannstrom had a better contract, he just wasn't that defensive juggernaut as much as he was an offensive one. And our team did not struggle in any way when it came to offense. So he was traded to Chicago in exchange for 4 years of future first-round picks. They do not kick in, I believe, until 2026. But then, from 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029, we have Chicago's first-round picks. Next, we move on to who was supposed to be the future of the Quebec City Stallions. Came in as a high elite potential prospect, the now 22-year-old Darren McDonald. High elite potential, taken number 1 at the draft, the two-way defender. He was supposed to be the future of this team. Great year in Niagara in the Ontario Hockey League. He was drafted 1st overall, where he put up over 20 goals and almost 70 points in his rookie season on the blue line, before topping that one in his sophomore season with a 95-point performance, including the Norris Trophy, as a plus 104 two-way defender who just puts up absurd amounts of points. In the next season, which was last year, due to some issues that we had in the locker room between him and another defenseman that was in the lineup, who was an older veteran defenseman. One of them had to go, and it did cause Darren McDonald's offense to dip a little bit. It caused his offense to kind of drop. But he still had a very, very good season. And this year, he's got no puck luck, you know? He's so puck sick right now. He needs to start producing offensively again, and he just can't seem to find his rhythm this year. He's playing defensively very well, but offensively really struggling. And he is spending more time in the penalty box than he ever has in his career. He's also having a lot of trouble getting points on the power play, which he has never really struggled with before. But he is still assistant captain on this team. Defensively, absolutely a phenomenal player. Can control the puck with the best of them. He's got some wheels, great balance. You know, he's a tough enough guy. He's got a decent shot, but that poise is what sets him apart. And he is on this team for 4 years, 3 after this season for 11.5. He had that 95-point season and jumped to high franchise potential from high elite. So he does still have the potential to be that big player on this team. Next, we move on to Patrick McDonald, the 19-year-old, 89 overall franchise potential player who was not a franchise player when drafted. Medium elite potential, just looked like he was going to be a really good sniper, drafted first overall. And as soon as he was put on a line with Thatcher Lewis and Ryan Chisolm, the sparks flew. They just had this chemistry. It was unbelievable. And he put up over 100 points in his rookie season, took the Calder Trophy by 1.5 miles, and this season leads the NHL in goals and points and plus minus, and he is 7 goals away from 100 in his career, which would get him the NHL all-time record for youngest player to ever reach 100 goals. At 19 years old, his birthday is not until June. Ethan Bryant is one of those workhorse players. He's 26 years old. He's been around here since the beginning. He's got a huge contract that takes him up to the age of 33. And he's just another one of those guys. Never had a 100-point season in his career, but he has never been below a point per game. He has always been above a point per game. Always. Really, really effective point guy in that top 6 for this team, who did jump up to medium elite for a time. Just this last year, he did drop back down to medium top 6 forward, but the overall is still there. He's got wheels for days. His puck moving ability is absolutely, without a doubt, top 5 in the National Hockey League. The poise is there. The discipline is phenomenal. He does not take a lot of penalties. He had 1 fight this year, and I think he has 4 penalties in about a third of the season, and I'm not going to complain about that. Not even a little bit. If you want to know where Ethan Bryant really shines the most, though, it is definitely in the playoffs. He is a really, really elite playoff performer by leaps and bounds. We have been to the playoffs 4 times in the first season ever of the Quebec City Stallions franchise. We won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup. The next season, we made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs before being eliminated. The next year, we won Game 1 against the Florida Panthers. It was the Florida Panthers, I believe. We won the first game of that series and then got swept in reverse by the Cats in round 1. Until last year, getting like an NHL record playoff run, won the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in 4 years, with Ethan Bryant being one of the absolute leaders on this team. Colin White was one of those guys right at the beginning that was on our team and performed very, very well right from the beginning, right? He missed 3 games due to injury in his rookie year, but had over 50 points centering the splitting his time centering between the 2nd and 3rd line. Mostly the 3rd. Towards the end of the season, jumped onto that 2nd line a little bit. In his sophomore year, again, jumped between the 2nd and 3rd lines and had 46 points. Was very effective. Great penalty killer for the team. But it was time to move on. We had other prospects moving up in the organization, moving up in the lineup and everything. So it was time for us to say goodbye to Colin White. So we got rid of him. We traded him to the Edmonton Oilers at the draft. And at that draft, we got Cameron McDonald. He is a 20-year-old high top 6 forward potential guy who went 3rd overall in the draft. That is what we traded Colin White for, the number 3 pick at the draft. And finally, Cameron McDonald is making his NHL debut this season, and he is playing very well. He's got double-digit goals in the first third of the season. He has got 18 points. He is a plus player, does not take a lot of penalties, doesn't really shoot a lot, but has a pretty high shooting percentage. He is on pace to end this season with about 54 points, I believe. Something like that, 54 or 55 points. In Kitchener, at the time he was drafted, he had 72 points in 66 games. Played quite well, got taken 3rd, was sent back to the Kitchener Rangers the next year. Or was this, am I a year off? He was a 2021 draft pick. Okay, so 76 points, and he was drafted, 31 goals, 45 assists, but was a minus player. The next season, he was not quite NHL ready yet, so we sent him back to Kitchener in the Ontario Hockey League, where he actually had a really not great year. So his growth really wasn't all that great. He didn't grow as much as we really would have liked him to, but then last season, we sent him back to Kitchener one last time, and boy did he turn it on. He got 86 points in 60 games played, plus 14. They played phenomenally well that year, and he jumped to 80 overall, where he is now in the National Hockey League. He is here to stay, and he is actually playing on our number 1 line with Matt Siemens and Ethan Bryant. Next, we have Connor Brown. Connor Brown is one of those stories of a guy that comes on to the Quebec City Stallions team. He is really just a space filler. We didn't expect any offense really out of Connor Brown. It was going to be the Ryan Chisolm, Matt Siemens show kind of thing. And Connor Brown with a scoring touch just kind of came out of nowhere and started just putting everything in the net. Every single time he touched the puck, it's like it was just working, And then the second year, he got even better. And then in his 3rd year with the Quebec City Stallions, he got even better. It was amazing. He was above a point per game player. He was up to, I believe it was 88 overall at that point. And then last season in our historic President's Trophy run, where we went 72, 8-2, I believe was our final record at the end of the season. Absolute NHL record-setting season. We just were unbeatable throughout that season and just walked to the Stanley Cup. We just sauntered on through it. But Connor Brown really seemed to struggle, and it was because we had so many emerging superstars that were really taking the team by storm offensively, and Connor Brown was kind of left at the wayside. So, out of fairness to Connor Brown, and the fact that he had become this very elite player who was making under $7 million a year, we had a little bit of cap problems because of Ryan Chisolm and Darren McDonald, both wanting 11.5 or more for the foreseeable future. We decided for Connor Brown's sake, it was time for us to move on from him, send him somewhere where he's going to get a lot of ice time. He's going to have his best chance to succeed. And so far since he went to Buffalo, he's above a point per game player again. He's looking really, really solid in Buffalo. He's looking like he's kind of leading their team. And they're playing very well this year. Robert Baudouin was one of those classic leader characters on the Quebec City Stallions. So, the way it started, Robert Baudouin is a defensive defenseman and a damn good one. He's a very, very solid defensive defenseman. But he was really having a hard time getting along with any of the young players on the team. So, about a third of the way through the second season, we traded Robert Baudouin to the New York Islanders, where he played another 32 games and did quite well for them, actually, for a defensive defenseman, before they traded him at the deadline to the Detroit Red Wings, where, again, he didn't play that bad. He was a minus player there, but oh well. So that's his sophomore season in the National Hockey League. Robert Baudouin played for 3 different teams. And then at the end of the season, signed a contract in Pittsburgh. So in Pittsburgh, he had not a great year. He had a couple of injuries, sidelined him for about 14 games. He was a minus player again, known for not really taking penalties, playing a very clean game. Played part of his second year in Pittsburgh until he was offered back to the Quebec City Stallions, who took him up on that offer, and he produced incredibly well in the 14 games that he was here. He came back to the Quebec City Stallions, played very, very, very solid, was one of the best defensemen in the entire league, but the same problems that happened before happened again. He could not get along with any of his teammates. So again, that same season, he was shipped back to the Islanders, where he absolutely played terrific hockey for the rest of that season. One of their best defensemen, if not their best defenseman, down the stretch in that season. So again, there's Robert Beaudoin playing for 3 different teams in the same year for the second time in just 4 years. And now so far this season, he is point-wise producing just fine for a defensive defenseman. But the team is struggling, and he has got a pretty low plus-minus. So that is the story of the now very much veteran Robert Beaudoin. Now that we're done with these players, let's move on to the goaltenders. We have Nick Malik, who was drafted, again, just like Oliver Dupuis, in the 3rd round of the 2020 entry draft. And he was one of those guys that shocked everyone and became a legitimate NHL backup goaltender. At 20 years old, he was 80 overall and was a legitimate backup goaltender. So along with Philip Gustafson playing in his rookie season as a starter, Nick Malik played 28 games, went 23-5-0 with 3 shutouts, had a .910 save percentage, and a GAA of only 2.15. After that, though, another phenomenal prospect for the Quebec City Stallions emerged. That would be Artem Brelin, who was taken 18th overall, I believe, the same year or the following year. I can't remember 100%, but Artem Brelin is a phenomenal prospect. He was then traded to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for, I believe, a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick. And he is absolutely playing phenomenal hockey. And us at the Quebec City Stallions wish him nothing but the best. Anyway, that is going to do it for the comprehensive history of the Quebec City Stallions. In the next video that I post on the Quebec City Stallions, we are going to show you December 5th, 2023's game versus the Colorado Avalanche. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. There's new videos coming every single day, and I hope this is a series that you guys really enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.